Combine week in Indy. We got a lot of audio from various and just responses from various, important folks in the NBA or NFL rather today. We were talking earlier about some of the things that Stephen Jones said when the media caught up with him today. Dan Quinn, obviously the new head coach of the Washington Commandos, was talking earlier today. I saw Dan Campbell talking. We saw the Vikings general manager, Browns general manager, all sorts of folks talking out in Indy. As it does serve as that kind of that convention, but
no Mike McCarthy.
No Mike McCarthy. Him and Mike Zimmer both in town.
In Dallas, Florida.
Yes.
Yeah, in Frisco. Zimmer catching up with the Cowboys. You got to catch up with the Cowboys for it. But you were, and this is the second year in a row Mike McCarthy hadn't been there, but you said something kind of interesting. Mike McCarthy, you would think he might want to, get some intel. Meet and greet.
Rub shoulders.
Rub some shoulders.
All those things, right?
Yeah.
Or rub elbows, I guess is ultimately the phrase that you're supposed to use there. But yeah, I would have anticipated that maybe that some of that, but I guess he finds himself more productive remaining in DFW, so that's what he's doing. But let's talk about some, big questions when it comes to the NFL Combine 2024. And the big one early on is just what's going to be the big storyline. One of the things that comes up is quarterbacks, right? Obviously, the quarterbacks, Caleb Williams isn't throwing, and then also we know that Jane Daniels isn't throwing. We know that Drake May is not going to get involved. So those are kind of the top three I think that people have kind of considered as the guys that will probably go up there. But that likely we're still getting Michael Penix Jr. throwing. We're still getting Bo Nix throwing. And I believe J.J. McCarthy also throwing. And all those guys are very intriguing. Those are guys that we talked about as possibly making an impact on the first round, because those are guys that some people view as maybe second-round quarterbacks. But every once in a while, and I know J.J. McCarthy is one of those ones that people are giving buzz to as a top 10 pick. In fact, Brian Broaddus himself feels like I think he has a little bit of appreciation for, or I guess less of an appreciation for Drake May, and maybe that pushes some of these other guys upwards. So that's going to be a big one.
For some reason, Broaddus don't like Drake May.
Yeah.
He got him like a second-round tag. Right.
Himself and, oh my goodness, who else was making that note earlier today? So I do apologize for not remembering that. But yeah, it's the quarterbacks end up being such a big deal because we all know that as draft prospects, quarterbacks are the ones that feel like they could change the direction and the possible prosperity of a franchise.
Ask Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, that storyline. We talked about that a ton.
Draft.
But we've seen the ways in which teams will mortgage their franchise to go get a quarterback, and we've seen the ways that a quarterback can seemingly change the entirety of the way that a team is, viewed. Now, obviously, other things come into it, but I think of like the Cincinnati Bengals, who historically have consistently been a cheap franchise, a franchise that is not well regarded around the league, and some of those types of things. And now you get Joe Burrow and the ability to win consistently, and all of a sudden there seems to be a little bit more willingness by that franchise to spend, and they don't look like themselves. Right. And so that's another thing. Also, another part of this is we talk about it's a deep offensive tackles draft. There's a lot of offensive tackles. So Joe Alt of Notre Dame is a guy. Olu Fashanu is going to be a guy out of Penn State. Like those guys. And then also wide receivers, because you talk about MHJ out of Ohio State, the wide receiver.
Marvin Harrison Jr. I'll say his name because he ain't his daddy.
I feel so uncomfortable. And then Malik Neighbors, who is another one. Like, there's a lot of people jockeying about who are these guys, but then also who is wide receiver 3, because there's a lot of other guys you could look at. Rome Odunze, who was really good at Washington, Troy Franklin, Brian Thomas Jr., all sorts of wide receivers that maybe one of these guys will really solidify themselves, or maybe a wide receiver that is, the tape is solid, but then maybe they do something special when it comes to some of these drills that makes them pop for various people involved.
The Cowboys, when they go shopping, and, they're going to look at these guys out of the combine, but I'm thinking they should be looking for a center, a running back. I'm not saying get rid of Tony Pollard. I'm talking about you got to get another one though. If you keep Tony Pollard, just get another running back, a defensive tackle, a linebacker. Am I leaving somebody out? That's to me the top 4: center, running back, defensive tackle, and linebacker.
Yes, and thank you. See her mention that Merrill Hodge was the one who had the Drake May take that he was not feeling.
Okay, thank you.
Drake May. But yeah, those feel like the major positions. Center, possibly tackle, especially with how deep it is, and the fact that Tyron Smith is not a guy that you are viewing as the future at this point, right? Like maybe you bring him back.
His last season.
Right, he's an unrestricted free agent, but maybe you bring him back for another season, as it seems like he doesn't want to retire. All reporting points to. But maybe you bring him back and he's able to continue to give you a good amount of play with, I think the circumstances that they seem to have built where don't, give them vet days, don't practice them, just get out there, do the thing that we know you could do, and maybe that works. But maybe you go the tackle route, as there's a lot of them that are available, and maybe you get your guy of the future at left tackle. It seems like they're very comfortable with him, or Tyler Smith, that is, at guard. In fact, earlier today, Stephen Jones made mention that he had the nerve to mention Larry Allen when talking in some ways about Tyler Smith. And so that's high praise, and that makes me think that they would feel very good about if he could continue playing guard for them.
Yeah, he basically said Larry Allen didn't come to this team as a guard. And look at him. He's in the Hall of Fame. So everybody's been impressed with Tyler Smith and the way he's playing. He's very comfortable left guard. And it's like, why move him? Again, the move might be to make is to draft a left tackle and let him get good. And when Tyron is ready to retire, maybe at the end of the season, you don't know, then it's time to just move in that other guy and let, Tyler keep dominating at left guard. Because he could have said Zach Martin, because Zach Martin, he wasn't drafted to be a right guard, and there he is.
Yeah, that's true. There he is. Absolutely a Hall of Famer. As we continue talking about some like the big storylines, big things that are happening at the Combine. CBS Sports talked about the prospects that they think will erupt at the Combine. Chop Robinson out of Penn State is one of the guys that they bring up. The idea, Chop Robinson hasn't gotten a lot of talk necessarily when discussing edge rushers, but he's a little undersized, high motor. And just like maybe the testing will give a lot of people a little bit of a taste of what he's capable of. Another guy that comes up, Troy Franklin, I mentioned him a little bit earlier, out of Oregon, that wide receiver, 6-footer, right? Or well over 6 foot, and a little bit light, but has the build to like really run.
He got a gear
in the dash, and so maybe he just ends up looking so fast, because I know that I don't think we still have like the spirit of Al Davis going around the league at times. But, every once in a while you get that real low number on that 40 and someone's just like, oh, I must take him.
I must take him, just try to spread this field.
Just got to see. In fact,
put him out there, stretch the field.
As we go.
Stretch that defense.
Right. As we go up trying to find out who might run the fastest, I'll take you to the NFL, Combine, maybe like top high school 100-meter runners, right, of the guys that are in the Combine. Tyler Owens, who was a safety out of Texas Tech, shout out to the Red Raiders. He ran a 10.29 100 in high school. Ooh. And so that might really track to him being very, very fast in the 40. And I don't know if that actually means anything for like his draft availability or a possibility of being drafted highly. But I think the 40 might be one of the few things that just in and of itself is entertaining to those of us on the outside. And so go Tyler Owens. I would love to see him just go ahead and tear this thing up.
You're going to see those highlights of the 40.
Yeah.
Especially if people act up, and especially if it's a big man doing it good.
Right. I love seeing that's one of the things I love about the 40 in the Combine, is just seeing like the big men run.
Rumble, because young man rumble.
I think it serves as a reminder for anybody that ends up talking just a little bit disrespectful about linemen sometimes. These dudes are not like the big sloppies that we try and make. No. These dudes are athletes. 3 syllables, right? Like these dudes are crazy athletic. And I love seeing it. It gets highlighted in this. And then Camp Paranormal mentioned Hookem in a way. And I do want to appreciate that, because Xavier Worthy out of Texas, the wide receiver, I think that he could be really interesting.
Yeah, he is.
When it comes to like running fastest on the 40.
Yeah, I like the way he catches the ball too, especially right there on the. I mean, he's got good feet. He's got some good moves too. I just like the way he plays.
Is there anything that you are like interested in or wanting to get a little bit more insight into over the course of the week at the Combine?
I want to see which quarterback that they just lose their minds over, and see. In other words, it's always somebody we didn't know he does a great thing. And
who's a Combine champ of quarterbacks?
Yeah, like Anthony. What's his name from the Colts?
Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, Richardson. Nope. I mean, I was like, Anthony. Yeah, he looks good, but I mean, he won the Combine. And I'll be damned if he didn't look good in September.
Yeah, I feel like you might have an opportunity to have like Michael Penix do a little bit of that, just because the arm ends up looking really good.
Talent. He can throw some passes.
Even though he's like an oddly antiquated quarterback in a way. Like he does not have necessarily the mobility that we look at, and at least I look at when it comes to like modern quarterbacks.
He should show out, because he went before it was over in Washington. It was Washington, right?
Yeah.
Before he's at Washington, he's at Purdue. That's right there in Indianapolis.
Indiana.
Oh, he went to Indiana.
Yeah.
That's still not down. That's down the street.
Right.
At home. You gotta show out.
Yeah, you should be comfortable, young man. Although, how is he, like 24? A little bit less young, but no, I'm super excited to see, like, yeah, that.
Did you just call him Stetson?
Well, I wouldn't call him Stetson because he's gonna be next to Bo Nix, who's out there as well, right? You're gonna have a lot of dudes who are getting close to the Social Security checks out there, tossing the football. Whiskers. But I do wonder if that will make it even nicer when it comes to like just watching the drills of this. Because again, the drills of it might not matter a ton when it comes to like the actual evaluation. Necessarily that tape is going to rule supreme, but it ends up being just another data point in a way. However, if you're just consuming this for what, just what it is and as it is, I think that you have like a level of experience when it comes to some of these quarterbacks that might make it so that it just looks real fun if you are simply involved in the underwear Olympics of it all.